Hello you fine ladies and gentlemen, how are you all doing? I hope your day is going well. Today we have yet another loadout for Star Wars Battlefront. This one was very kindly suggested by a member of our community, so thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any loadout ideas you guys want me to try, wow, that was not put properly. If you guys have any loadout ideas you'd like me to try, then please do put it in the comments down below. You can either just say the name of the loadout and I'll try and see what goes in it, or you can give a more detailed description of every part of the loadout. It is up to you, whatever suits your fancy, but that would be really appreciated. Nevertheless, let's get into today's loadout, which is the Dark Trooper Loadout from Star Wars Battlefront 2. You may have remembered playing as the Dark Trooper if you did play Battlefront 2. He was one of the more elite troops that you had to like rack up points to play as. I don't know, I remember playing as the Dark Trooper and it was quite fun to play, I must tell you that. So it's great to kind of bring that into Star Wars Battlefront with this loadout. So let's get started. So starting with the first star card, which is the jump pack. This is of course a very useful star card, and makes sense because the Dark Trooper used a jump pack very similar to this one in Star Wars Battlefront 2. The jump pack in Battlefront is of course very useful for being more maneuverable around the map. You know, you can really get yourself out of a pinch quickly if you find yourself surrounded, or just traverse the map quickly if you don't want to sprint around the whole map or walk around the whole map, I don't know. And also it can be used in a kind of a combat situation as well, to reposition yourself in a firefight if you need to do so. So that is also really useful. Now, one of its uses that is really great for this loadout is closing distance between you and an enemy, because the blaster we're using is very suited to close range. If there's an enemy a little out of reach, you can use the jump pack to close that distance, which is really handy. Now on to the second star card, which is this scout pistol, and this kind of represents the award pistol in Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you got a certain number of kills with the Shadow Trooper, then you were awarded this special pistol, and that's kind of what the scout pistol represents. Now, I don't usually use the scout pistol, but it's not actually a bad star card. Especially in close range, it can actually be really handy, like you saw right there. In close range, it's really useful actually, and it also has some medium range capabilities as well. Now, one thing that it really contributes to this loadout is because the CA-87, which is the blaster we're using, which we'll talk about in a bit, is very suited to close range and not really medium range. So what you can do is use the scout pistol to deal some damage to an enemy at a further range, and then use the CA-87 to finish them off, because it will not deal a whole lot of damage at medium range, but it can still deal some damage, and hopefully it's enough to finish off the enemy that you got with the scout pistol. Now on to the charge card, which is the focus fire. Now, the comment said you can also use the disruption star card, which would also make sense, and these both have to do with the blaster. So the blaster CA-87 is like the arc caster that the Dark Trooper uses, except it's not really like the arc caster because it doesn't shoot lightning out of it, but it is similar to it in some ways. It's as close as you're going to get in Star Wars Battlefront right now. So what the similarities are, well, it shoots kind of one shot at a time, and of course it takes a while between shots to fire another one. Those are really the only similarities, but it is closer to the arc caster than any other blaster in the game, so that is what we are using. Anyways, with the arc caster in Star Wars Battlefront 2, you could charge it up. Charging it up would allow you to, first of all, use it like chain lightning, like Palpatine's chain lightning, sorry. It would allow you to chain it between different enemies so that you could do an area of effect damage. Now, of course, that is kind of what the disruption charge card would do. It affects enemies in an area, and that would kind of represent the chain lightning. Now, I opted to go for the focus fire, which kind of represents just charging the arc caster up so that it's more accurate, sorry, and more powerful, of course, because in a way it does increase the damage of the blaster, because the burst is focused and more concentrated, which in a sense does increase the damage. So that's why I went with the focus fire. The disruption, it's good. I feel so undignified every time I use the disruption. I've actually never used the disruption because I know I will feel undignified when I use it, but it's just, I don't know, I don't find it to be the most fair charge card, so that's why I opted to go for the focus fire, and I was actually pleasantly surprised because the focus fire with the CA-87 is awesome because it can really extend the ranged capabilities of the CA-47, and you can really fight enemies at a longer distance, which is really useful, especially for a blaster like this, which isn't usually very versatile. So that's really helpful. Now on to our trait, which is probably the best part of this loadout, or at least the most crucial part of this loadout, because it allows us to use the CA-87 to its utmost potential, and use it to its highest proficiency, because the CA-87 is really only good at close range. But to get close range, if you're not playing on a close range map, to get into close range situations, you kind of need to go up to the enemy. And if they can see you doing that on the minimap or just see you, it's not going to be very easy to get up close to them so that you can take them on with this CA-87. That's why the scout trait is so crucial to this loadout, because it allows you to get so much closer to the enemies without them seeing you, because you have that concealment. That is why the scout trait is so crucial for this loadout. So you can really flank the enemy team and come up behind them and use the CA-87 properly. Now, also at rank 3 with the scout trait, it resets your cooling flush cooldown with each kill, and that is really helpful with the CA-87 as well, because you can only fire 3 consecutive shots before this blaster overheats. So being able to take on multiple enemies by having that reset is really helpful, because you can't really do that normally. You can't take on multiple enemies with this blaster because it overheats so quickly. So having that reset is really helpful. But of course, you do need to get it up to rank 3 before you can have that. Now on to some general tips and tricks on how to use this loadout properly. Now with the scout perk, or the scout trait, and how useful it is to be concealed on the minimap, this loadout really requires you to be more of a lone wolf. You can't really stick with your team too much because that concealment on the minimap is so important. So you really need to just be a lone wolf and go on your own and flank the enemy and come up behind them so that they really can't see you on the minimap. Because sometimes when you're with other teammates, they're not using scout, or they're just being really obnoxious and putting you on the minimap, and that's really not helpful when using this loadout. So you do really need to be more of a lone wolf and really optimize that sneaking ability. So that is all for today's loadout. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any loadout suggestions, again, just leave them in the comments. That would be much appreciated. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.